So today's episode's a little different. Clearly, the times are different. The times are. The world is a very different place today than it was just a few short weeks ago. And I just felt I really wanted to share this message today. And like as I'm literally preparing to record it, I'm recording this on my phone. I just wanted to get this out. It's different. I was like, this is not the type of episode where you play the fancy intro and you do all that. There's no hook, there's no story, there's no offer. This is not like a typical episode. And I wanted to share some thoughts on how to thrive during chaos. Particularly during this coronavirus, as whatever it's called, this COVID-19 thing. The reality is, whether you think it's a big deal, whether you think it's a hoax, whether you think it's the end of the world, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter what you think. People are scared, and lives are changed. The world is a different place right now. And I shared this on Facebook the other day, but I came across this quote that I thought was really relevant to right now. Um, from Aldous Huxley, the author of Brave New World. He said, "Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored." And that doesn't necessarily mean the facts of the virus. Like, I'm not an we were joking about this the other day. I'm not an epidemiologist. I just learned that word. It's a person who studies infectious diseases. I'm not one of those. I'm not a government official. I don't have access to all the data. I have not spent any time looking up the data, but the facts are the facts. The facts are that many people are quarantined. The facts are that restaurants in many places are shut down. The facts are that schools are shut down. The facts are, like I said, that the world is a very different place. And so, first of all, I just want to acknowledge, like, if you're fearful, it's justified. It's okay to feel that way. I'm not like I'm personally not freaking out about it. I'm taking precautions. But if you are, maybe because you know somebody, or maybe because you're in a vulnerable group, um, that's okay. And don't let people make fun of you for that. I have my mom is 65 years old and has asthma and works in a hospital. It's like the triple whammy. You know, there's a much greater chance that she could catch it, and if she does, it's really bad for her. It's not a death sentence, but it's unfortunately, it's a pretty high rate. And so that's something that is on my mind, and that's justified. That's okay. But as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, um, specifically as business owners. Not just as human beings, but as business owners. And I think anything that I'm going to share today is applicable, whether you're a business owner, whether you work for someone. I think it's applicable whether you're a parent, spouse, just a member of the human race. I think there's three mistakes we need to avoid. In particular with what's going on right now, with the reaction that we have right now. The first mistake is just pretending it's not real. Sticking our head in the sand. And I know I kind of fell into this camp. Like, I didn't understand it because I don't watch the news. I'll share more about that later. But because I don't really engage with the news much at all, I didn't really understand it. And it's not that I was ignoring the news or pretending, that what I heard wasn't factual. I just didn't know. And I remember there was a post in a mastermind group I'm in, and in the Facebook group, somebody was, I think it was on Saturday, so it was like 9 days ago. I'm recording this on Monday, almost at exactly noon. So I'm going to push this live like pretty soon after. We'll probably run it through an audio checker, and I've got some phone calls, and then we'll push this live this afternoon, earlier than our normal Tuesday episode. And I just realized the downside of recording this on my phone is that I have reminders and like text messages popping off. I didn't put it on Do Not Disturb, so hopefully that vibration doesn't come through to you guys. But there was this post on Saturday, so this would have been March, whatever, 7th or something. And I said, I don't get it. Like, what am I missing here? Because I just went to the mall yesterday, and I went to the zoo, and the place was packed. And the reality is, in the United States, it really hadn't hit yet. It really hadn't. And, Then in like 24 hours on Thursday, you know, they shut down the NBA, they shut down the NHL, they shut down Major League Baseball, they shut down, you know, March Madness for men and women, and all these cornerstones of like our society, you know, of who we are as Americans, you know, for those of us in the United States. And it was like, oh, this just got real, you know. So don't pretend that it's not real. Don't stick your head in the sand. And again, I'm not saying you got to freak out and go buy 8 million gallons of hand sanitizer. That's not what I mean. I just mean don't pretend that it's not real for your audience. As business owners, you cannot just pretend. This is not business as usual. You cannot just pretend that your audience isn't scared right now, or at least a lot of them aren't. You cannot do that. And you have to acknowledge it. It's one of the reasons why I'm publishing this, you know, is I feel like right now, we'll talk about this more later. I just feel like right now, we as entrepreneurs and we as thought leaders, we were in a unique place where we have a unique opportunity to lead and to be a positive light on the world. So don't pretend that it's not real. Don't just stick your head in the sand and, you know, plug your ears and say, no, 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 no. You know, coronavirus it's not a concern. Nobody should care about it. And all of you who think it's a big deal should just shut up. You know, no, that's not the case. If somebody thinks it's a big deal to them. And so you gotta, you know, for lack of a better word, you gotta play along with them, even if you don't think it's a big deal. Second of all, you can't let it shut down your entire life. You know, that's a mistake. Stopping everything on account of this is just not realistic. You know, I'm super thankful, and I anytime I say something like this, I sincerely hope it doesn't come across like I'm bragging. I'm always cognizant of that, and maybe that's just me. You know, I'm just being very transparent here. Like, maybe that's just me. You know, but for me, you know, I'm super thankful. We have an online business. I work from home. And our business is international in a good way, in that, you know, if something happens in one country, it really doesn't affect us all that much, even if it happens in the United States. And, you know, I'm super thankful that we have a property here in Fort Wayne. We're on a couple of acres. And so we can walk outside. Like, yesterday, you know, the kids, I've got an injury that's kind of laid me up here as well. Kind of ironic. Everybody's on quarantine and I just can't leave the house because I can barely move. Um, but you know, here I am watching the kids. I mean, they're exploring outside, and there's no chance. Like, they're, you know, 100 yards from our house. There's no chance they're going to get coronavirus. You know, because there's nobody within. You know, like, you got to travel quite a distance before you get to another human being, and, you know, not be on our property. Um, and so it's like, you know, you can still go outside. You can still go for a run. I might recommend not going to the YMCA and jumping on the treadmill. I might not. You know, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But I certainly don't think that this should shut down your entire life. It should not shut down your ability to learn. It should not shut down your ability. You know, it's a great time. Play games with your family and do things that you otherwise might not do. You know, and I think this is a great opportunity to read some additional books. And you know, the thing about, like, if you have a full-time job normally and you're working from home right now, the reality is you can get what normally takes you 9 hours at work, you know, and then you factor in the commute and all that. You can take what normally takes you 10 hours to do. You can get it done in 5 or 6 hours. That leaves you 4 hours, and you get to choose what you do with those 4 hours. And, you know, some recommendations might be, you know, read a book. You know, average book probably takes about 4 hours to read. In 2 days, you can read a book with half of that, you know, that extra 4 hours that you've got. You know, spend some extra time with your family, of course. Love on them. You know, do something else. Go through an online course. Go through our List Launch Challenge coming up, listlaunchchallenge.com. You know, do something like that. Use that extra time, but do not let it shut down your entire life. And then third, I think one of the biggest mistakes people can make is not taking advantage of it. Now, I'm not saying take advantage of people. I'm talking about taking advantage of the situation. Like, there are opportunities for you in this chaos. Not opportunities to take advantage of people, but opportunities to serve people. Okay? To, as I said earlier, shine a light on the goodness in the world, to stay positive in the midst of all the negativity. You know, the reality is that most people they're going to be working from home. They're going to be staying at home. I heard there are states that are shutting down bars and restaurants, and it's like, really, what are you going to do? You know, and so that's the reality. So we can't stick our head in the sand. That is the reality. People are going to be going out less, even if things aren't shut down. People are going to be spending more time online, and that means that the reality is that people will finally take that first step to do something that they otherwise wouldn't have, quote unquote, had the time for. You know, maybe they're going to learn a language and you can help them. Maybe they're going to learn an instrument. They're going to learn a new workout routine. They're going to switch to a new diet. They're going to learn how to start a business. They're going to learn how to, do Facebook ads. They're going to learn how to, um, I don't know, they're going to learn whatever it is. And the only question is, like, people are going to be looking for these things. The only question is, will you be there to serve them? Will you be there to lead them? Will you build an email list so you can reach out to these folks and be a voice of positivity in this time? Like, I strongly believe no matter what niche you are in, now is the time to be that voice. We think about thought leaders in the personal development space, and we say, yeah, they should be leaders right now. We think of politicians, they should be leaders right now. But you could be in the cake decorating niche, and you have an opportunity to be a leader to your audience. And maybe that's something people are going to take up is cake decorating. Maybe they're going to learn some new recipes. Maybe they're going to learn how to do some DIY projects. Maybe they're going to learn how to. They're a lot of parents are learning how to homeschool right now. And they're learning how to work from home, and maybe you can help them with that. So what are those things that you can help them with, and how can you be a voice in their lives? The other thing is, there have been so many companies. If you study history, this is a beautiful thing about studying history. So many companies have been started during, recessions, during major economic crises. I did some research earlier. I'm reading Thomas Edison's book right now. I think it's called Edison. The one by, oh my gosh, I'm reading the book. What is his name? The guy who did the Theodore Rex, Edmund Morris, the guy who did the Theodore Rex trilogy. General Electric was started in 1890. And I mean, this is like the Panic of 1890 is what it was called. And then, I mean, literally, like, if you study the history of General Electric, it would seem like that's the worst time to start a business. But I mean, within like 3 years, they survived, and then it was like in 1896 they became one of the 12 original companies in the Dow Jones, and it's still there today. Now, some things have happened, of course, with GE, but for 100 years, it was one of the strongest. It was like an icon in the United States, and it started in the middle of a economic, like a worldwide economic panic. And so, if you study history, you see these things. You see IBM. IBM started in 1896, which was right at the tail end of that. I mean, it started in 1896, but Thomas Watson came on in 1924. 1924, right before what? Then the crash of 1929. And so he came in during these tough times, and he established a cultural foundation that survived not only the difficult times, but they came out stronger. P&G, Procter and Gamble, 1837. Again, if you study history, you'll see, 1837 was it's called the Panic of 1837. Became a multi-million-dollar company, like selling candles, I think. And then now it's, like you turn over a household product and there's like a 10 or 20% chance it was made by Procter and Gamble. General Motors started in 1908. September 16th, 1908. They started General Motors right when there was like a major economic crash. This was the one that happened 11 years. This was the economic crash, 19 in that time. That kind of like preceded the one when we came out of that. Then we went on like the 20-year really good run, and were able to, then we had like 20 good years before the Great Depression, right? Went through World War I and had some stuff there, but it was a major crash. Like the panic or the crash of 1908 was what created the Federal Reserve System. Like that, we literally had such a big reaction. That's when GM was founded. Disney, 1923. Disney had to ride out the Great Depression. Literally Walt Disney Productions was incorporated in 1929, right in the middle of the Great Depression. And then this is the company that went on, of course, to, you know, create Mickey Mouse and, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and all that stuff. And, um, became the highest grossing movie of all time, at least for some number of years, like probably 50 or 60 years, right? But they did it through the Great Depression. Toll House Cookies, started, um, this was not only a great company, but like an amazing innovation. We were not out of the Great Depression in 1933. And they started, one of the great companies that's still around today. And invented, basically invented the chocolate crunch cookie, is what they called it back then. And anyway, there's a fun story behind there that I won't get into. But Burger King, 1953, end of the Korean War. Inflation was just like insane, right? And yet they started Burger King right in the middle of a depression. Why? Because no matter what the economy does, people got to eat, and one thing Americans love is a good burger. And so, like they started this company right in the middle of it. Microsoft, 1975, right in the middle. If you go back and study history, like they call that stagflation. So it's when unemployment is rising and inflation combined with a stagnant GDP. And I was actually just reading about this the other day, and I just thought this was fascinating. Like OPEC decided to quadruple oil prices, and so you know, but the economy just went to total crap. And so, like if you look at it, it's just crazy what happened. And this isn't a political commentary, but that lasted like 4 years, and Ronald Reagan admittedly took really good advantage of that. And the truth is, I don't know how much blame was due to Jimmy Carter, because he kind of inherited this from before he was elected, and that's a whole different topic, and one I don't need to get into. But those of you who know me know I like Ronald Reagan, and he took advantage of that. you know. And right in the midst of all this, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, they founded Microsoft. And it's just like crazy what if you look at what they've done, over the course of time. 4 billionaires, 12,000 millionaires among their employees, selling this stuff. CNN started in 1980. If you look, fast forward, the country began to come out of it. Right as Reagan was elected, the Federal Reserve made they actually screwed up. If you study history in retrospect, it's easy for me to say, but they raised interest rates to curb inflation, and it caused this double dip, recession. So it's like, imagine a W. We dip down and then we rise back up, and then we dip down, and actually the second little part of the W is lower. And so it's just, it was June 1st, 1980. June 1st, 1980, Ted Turner started CNN. Right in the middle of the first part of that recession. So not only did CNN go through the first part of that recession, they went through the little increase, and then they went through the second part of the recession right after that, and they still survived. Look at Apple. Apple was founded in 1975, just like Microsoft. So again, they went through that recession, but the Apple that we know today, really, really started in 2001. They launched the iPod October 23rd, 2001. What, 5-6 weeks after 9/11? It's crazy, right? We were in the midst of one of the craziest recessions, because of a terrorist attack. And yet they launched the iPod, and look what that's done today. That's what led to the iPhone, led to iTunes, led to all this stuff, and now they're, the wealthiest company in the world. And so just know that there are opportunities in this time. There are opportunities in the chaos. And so I want to share 3 keys, I believe, to thriving during this time of chaos. First of all, again, focus on your lens. Focus on your lens. Like everything we see in the world is through a lens. It's a lens of our choosing. Yeah, you could argue that it's a lens of our background, it's a lens of our socioeconomic status, it's a lens of what we, certainly I believe. We're going to be the same today, or we're going to be the same 5 years from now that we are today, except for the books we read and the people we hang out with. And we become the average of the 5 people we hang out with the most. I believe all that, but we still choose our lens. And so here's the reality: viruses die. It is a medical fact. Eventually, the virus will go away, and it will probably go away sooner than some people think. I mean, if you look at China, like the supply chain 6 weeks ago was completely shut down from China manufacturing. It was total panic like 2 months ago. Things are fairly back to normal there, at least in terms of like economics. I mean, 2 months, like in the span of our, an 80-year life, 2 months is a pretty short blip on the radar. And so, what you can control is the lens through which you process this chaos, just like we were talking about. Don't not take advantage of it. Don't fail to look for opportunities. Don't fail to look for the positive. Find the silver lining, whether it be that you can serve people and help them and make some money, start a business, or just take advantage of the fact that you have extra time to learn. Like I said, I truly believe if you work in an office environment, I've worked in an office environment and I've worked from home, and I can tell you I get more done. It takes me about 6 hours to get what used to take me 8 hours of work to do. About six is about I operate about 33% more efficiently. I'm not one of those people who's like I can get done in 2 hours what you get done in 10. No, but then you take away the commute, you take away all the things that you take away when you work from home, and all of a sudden you have all this extra time. Take advantage of social distancing, is what they're calling it today. Do I believe that you should always eat lunch alone? No. In fact, Keith Ferrazzi says never eat lunch alone. Great book, by the way. Right now, take advantage of the fact that you're eating lunch alone, or eat lunch with your family. Take advantage of those things that you otherwise can't. And so focus on your lens. Focus on how you're interpreting and how you're processing what's going on in the world. Secondly, this is a tip: don't watch or read or listen to the news. Uh, I highly suggest, like, if you need to, you know, uh, check it for a couple minutes. Check it for look at what's happening in your neighborhood, in your area. I think it's important to know that the governor of Indiana, like many governors, shut down large gatherings. Why? Because that meant we didn't have church on Sunday. I kind of needed to know that. So set up a Google alert or something that gives you the once a day, or go to Google News and only look at, like bookmark it, only look at your local stuff. All you need to know about is what's going on in your world right now. Knowing that it's spreading like wildfire in Bulgaria, unless you live in Bulgaria, it doesn't really affect you. If you're doing the right things, if you're taking the precautions and you're living your life the way you should, um, that just doesn't affect you. And it's unfortunate, but do you really need to know that? How is that going to help you? I heard something the other day. It said that there's a reason why if you watch if you watch the news, they're called a news anchor. They anchor your mind. They anchor what you think about. That's what they want to do. And I think that media can serve a purpose, but in many cases, we have to acknowledge the fact that the news media is a business. CNN, I mentioned that earlier. CNN is a business. Do I fault them for sensationalizing things? I actually don't. I in a way I don't. They're a business. They're trying to make money. They get ad revenue from viewers and viewers from sensationalizing things. So they anchor your mind. What you read, what you input anchors how you think. So what is your anchor? Where is your anchor? Who is your anchor? For me, it's my faith, it's my family, it's my friends, it's my business, it's serving others. Yeah, my business is an anchor. Operating our business and going forth with the List Launch Challenge, which we planned for months, and going forth with producing videos and podcasts and content, et cetera, et cetera. That's an anchor for me. It's a sense of normalcy to me. So what are your anchors? And I would just lean in. Like what are the 3 or 4 things that are normally anchors for you, and then just double down on those. Don't allow the news to anchor your life. And then third, fulfill your obligation to serve. And I shared this on a podcast episode last March. I did a series on my takeaways from Blackberry Farm when I was masterminding with Michael Hyatt and Jeff Walker and Amy Porterfield. And I talked about how um, if serving is the highest form of I'm trying to think of how I worded this, but basically, if serving people is kind of the highest form of being of use, to humanity, and selling is serving, then selling is one of the highest forms of being of use to humanity. And I don't mean selling, hand sanitizer at a 5,000% markup. That's not what I'm talking about. But if you fulfill your obligation to serve, it often means you have an obligation to sell. It means you have an obligation to get people into your course or your program or your product that is going to benefit them right now. And I would just say fulfill that, lean into that. And so, for us, one of the ways that we're able to serve, is through our List Launch Challenge. And one of the things that we've done is, we've taken, like nonprofits, students, teachers, and medical professionals, first responders, people like that. We've acknowledged them. And so if you run a nonprofit, if you're a student, you're a teacher, if you have a nonprofit, like, you need an email list more than ever. If you're a student, you have time now that you didn't have, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, even. If you're a teacher, you've got some spare time, right? And I know many teachers who've been eager to build a platform. If you're a medical professional, your life is going to be crazy for the next, few weeks, hopefully not much longer. And I had a guy, he was reminding me that in the first responder world, he works 24 hours on and then 72 hours off, and there's nothing he can do about his schedule. So if that describes you, you're a student, you're a nonprofit, you're a teacher, you're a medical professional of any sort, we want to give you access to List Launch Challenge. So if you know anyone who's any of these things, we want to give them access as well. We've had dozens and dozens now, probably getting close to 100 people who've taken us up on this offer. Um, for medical professionals, we're actually giving them lifetime access to the recordings and the lessons for free because of what I just said. Like, many of them are not going to be like, yeah, it's 24 on, 72 off, but often they're working double shifts. Or, there are medical professionals. I read this the other day from a friend of mine. He was like, right now, their shifts are different. They're working 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, and then like 48 off, and then 24 on. So they might work 3 24-hour shifts in a week because things are a little bit crazy right now. And so we're giving them access to the recordings, which normally you have to pay for, and whatnot. But we're just like, we know that they can't go through it right now, or they might only be able to join us for like one of the lessons. And so we want to make this available. So if that's you, if that's someone, we want to make this as accessible to as many people as possible, especially those most affected, by what's going on in the world. So if that's you, if you know someone, just send an email to llc@mattmcwilliams.com, and we'll hook you or them up with free access to the challenge. If you're a medical professional, we'll get you free access to to the recordings as well. So I hope you'll join us in List Launch Challenge. Like, I feel like now, and you can do that at listlaunchchallenge.com. I know more than ever it's important to control your own destiny. And I believe that having an email list that is growing, that's thriving, allows you to do that. So, again, follow these 3 keys. Don't make the mistakes that I shared, and follow these 3 keys to thriving during this time of chaos. Focus on your lens. Just know that the virus is going to die. It's a reality. Will it be 2 months? Will it be 6 months? I don't know. I really don't. I'm not an epidemiologist, but it will go away. That's what viruses do. And so, just what you can control is the lens through which you process this chaos. So control it in the best way you can. Number 2, don't watch or listen or read the news. If you really need to, and I wouldn't disagree with this, focus on the local news. Focus on what's going on in your neighborhood, what's closing in your community, your state. Are there any laws that have passed that are, that affect you locally? And then third, fulfill your obligation to serve, and know that often that means an obligation to sell. So you can check out List Launch Challenge at listlaunchchallenge.com. I hope you'll join us. We're gonna have an awesome time. We're actually extending the lessons and doing a little bit more than we planned on account of everything. People are gonna have some more time. So and then create opportunities or focus on the opportunities to serve, but also to thrive. And like I said, to take advantage of this, to take advantage of the situation, not people, but take advantage of the situation. So with that, I'll wrap up and I encourage you to stay healthy, stay safe, do what you need to do, whatever that is for your physical well-being, for your psychological well-being, whatever it is, do what you need to do, to keep you and your family safe. And hopefully soon I'll see you in a more normal episode. But in the meantime, make the best of it. See you soon.